Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a Mighty game review. The game I'll be talking about here is Transformers Fall of Cybertron. The game is actually quite old now. It was actually released in August of 2012. The developer is High Moon Studios. Now, Mercenary Technology would also be part of the development for the PC version, and Fun Labs would take part in the development of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One version, and the publisher is Activision. And I don't want to dive in too deeply here with Activision, because Activision is essentially why this game series would die. I'm not going to dive too much into that. There's videos discussing that out there on YouTube, but actually it was a very popular series of games. This was actually the sequel to Transformers War of Cybertron, which unfortunately I did want to do a review of it and get some footage of it, but there's a problem. I'm not getting any type of level progression whatsoever with War of Cybertron. However, I'm going to cover Fall of Cybertron because it seemed to work really good, and honestly, I felt it was actually better than what I experienced with War of Cybertron. The engine is Unreal Engine 3. Now, basically what you got here is you have a Transformers game that's based on Cybertron, pre-Transformers Generation 1 series. This is supposed to be a prequel, essentially, to the Transformers Generation 1 series, covering the final days of the War of Cybertron, which War of Cybertron covered, obviously, pre to this game. And the basis of this game is you're going through different stages. It is a linear third-person shooter game, but the basis of the storyline is essentially going through different missions, and essentially the Transformers, the Autobots specifically, trying to get the Ark off of Cybertron itself. So very interesting way they did that, and there's a lot of hints and tidbits and snippets there of different things from Transformers lore when it came to the fluff, or the lore, if you will, of how they did this game. They stayed very close to the lore of the original Transformers Generation 1 G1 series, but they also covered some of the stuff that you'd see in IDW and things of that nature. You know, just the way they did it was very interesting, and even there's references in the game of Optimus Prime being Orion Prox before he became Optimus Prime. Like when you go to the shop vendors, it will actually say, instead of Optimus Prime, it'll say Orion Prox, and then it will adjust itself and call him Optimus Prime. So it's interesting how they did that, and that's more of a comic book reference than a show reference. But I might be wrong there. My first recollection of Optimus Prime being called Orion Prox is the IDW comic series Transformers that covered the war on Cybertron itself, and they even followed the earlier look, per se, of Optimus Prime before coming to Earth, and the start of the Generation 1 series, where he's a more Earth-like truck with a trailer. The trailer is actually not in this game. I'm not sure why. I think that's more of a mechanical thing, but maybe he didn't have the trailer, the command trailer, before landing on Earth. Okay, so I'm going to dive into here what I liked about it and kind of what I disliked about the game, and just talk about some different things. I felt that generally the graphics, the sounds, and the atmosphere were really good. I liked the story actually to the game. It made you feel like it was the closing days of the War of Cybertron. You actually take part with both. Some of your missions you'll be a Decepticon, some of your missions you'll be an Autobot, and actually the very end you can choose to either be Optimus Prime, or you can choose to be Megatron, but you get to play different characters from both factions in the game. The Transformer animations and sounds are really good as well. Sounds just like the Generation 1 series, where you kind of got like this mechanical transformation process. The transformation process itself looks really good. I didn't do a whole lot of transforming in the game, but I would use it. There's also various kits, weapons, and accessories in the game that can change how the Transformers work, or how maybe you play out a different section, different boosters that will help you out, things of that nature. Really cool stuff. I mostly ran with the stock weapons that whatever Transformer that the Transformer had come with when the level started. But like the Optimus has the Path Blaster, which I believe is supposed to be his cannon from the Generation 1 series, his plasma cannon. And I think it's called the Riot Cannon for Megatron. And that felt more like the fusion cannon that you'd have from the Generation 1 Transformers as well. And you can see here it's built into his arm. So I thought that was pretty cool. I felt the voice acting was pretty excellent, but that being said, all the voice actors in the game has essentially experience somewhere else. The voice actor for Optimus, I believe it's actually the voice actor they got for Optimus from Generation 1 Transformers series. I believe he also was the voice actor for Optimus Prime in the movies. Both the Rise and War of, both the War and Fall of Cybertron games. So, they also got Nolan North, which did some voice acting for both the games, as well as he did voice acting for Deadpool, and he's done voice acting for animated series and stuff like that. So when it comes to voice actors, they definitely did not skimp out. They used familiar voice actors for the most part. And I mean, I don't remember all the names on the voice acting list, but they're all have contributed somewhere else, and they were all experienced voice actors. The music I liked, it was very Transformers-like. I like, generally speaking, a lot of them have the Transformers kind of look and feel to them. I mean, yeah, Bumblebee's not a Volkswagen Beetle, but he's got that rounded shape to him. He's smaller than the other Transformers. The only one that's really spot on to the Transformers G1, I would say, is actually the Dinobots, which they actually do explain that a bit in the game, that it was an experiment that Shockwave had done. Shockwave didn't really change, and Soundwave didn't really change, but I don't think they actually really changed from Cybertron to coming to Earth. A lot of the other characters like Ironhide, Bumblebee, Cliffjumper, they all did, even Optimus did. And there was a bunch of different Transformers in the game, and it made it very interesting. You also got the combat bots, the Combatabots, I think is what they were called. And they actually formed Devastator. Not Devastator. I think it's Bruticus, which is pretty cool, smashing around with that big ass Transformer. Stuff I didn't really care for was the driving was a bit kind of junky. I don't know really how to put it. It really wasn't. The driving parts that you didn't really feel great, and it's mostly because of there's always crap in the way. The roads weren't very even. You bounced around quite a bit, and it kind of made the driving a bit difficult compared to just running around blowing stuff up. The neons, I felt the neons was a little much on the Transformers models. It would have been probably actually nice to have less of that, but that's just my personal opinion. Some door interactions were a little bit glitchy, I noticed, as well. Sometimes I'd walk up to a door to activate the door, and the character would act like they're activating the door, and then they would just stand there staring at it and kind of lock up. And there was a couple times I'd have to reload a checkpoint to actually open the door. So that was kind of a glitch. That was a bit of a problem, but it wasn't a huge problem, and it was actually really the only noticeable huge problem that the game had. I didn't really notice any other sound glitches or graphic glitches or anything like that. Nothing major, at least, and nothing that really took away from the game. The one thing I did notice is the game is actually pretty hard to play. It felt pretty hard to play and not very good using the keyboard and mouse, and it was definitely much better with the controller, but it wasn't awesome. Personally, I rather would have played the game with the keyboard and the mouse, but it felt weird. and the controls are really not fully customizable, as essentially you have a couple options that you can run with, and nothing control wise is perfectly ergonomic, if you will. Cutscene audio and video, and I don't know why they did this or why this was the case, and it kind of ruined it for me a little bit, but not enough to really care because the story was still good. But the audio and the visual for the video cutscenes was completely different than the game itself. And mostly speaking, the video actually for the cutscenes did not look actually as good as the game, which is really weird. And even the audio for the videos did not sound as good either. It's like they did the video footage in something else than they did the game. So while the game itself looks great, the videos look really chalky, and I kind of regret not capturing any of the actual video cutscenes. And it was mostly, I didn't capture any because I wasn't really sure how they would record, because they looked so different and they sounded so different. And honestly, I was more or less concerned with it being completely glitched out. One other thing I want to point out, and this part I felt positive about, was all the Transformers are different, and they all have different types of gameplay mechanics, different types of strengths and weaknesses. Now, that being said, it's not kind of one of those things where you pick, I don't know, Bumblebee and you can play on campaign mission 2. You essentially, that you play whatever Transformer the game gives you. And the missions are definitely built around using that Transformer and using that Transformer's abilities. So that's really all I can say about that. Now, the question comes down to if I feel the game's worth it or not. And the biggest problem with it is I cannot present you a price tag here for this game. And that's because you can't get digital copies of this game anymore. The only way you can get this game is if you go on eBay or Amazon, some other website like that, and buy a physical copy. And then it's going to be a used physical copy. And obviously, if you have a modern gaming computer, more likely than not, you probably don't have an optic drive, which seems to be pretty standard nowadays on the modern gaming computers. Now, that being said, you can get a USB port, CD, optic drive, DVD type drive. So, it's not impossible for you to get this game and play this game. And the game looks great. The video options were really great. It worked perfectly for a modern computer. I just so happened to get lucky and get my hands on a copy for a decent price. It was well worth the price I paid for it. I so happened to pick a copy up for $15. And I would definitely recommend the game. I think the campaign ran me roughly 6 hours, maybe 7, but it was definitely worth it. Now, it does have a multiplayer, but the problem is the multiplayer is basically non-existent now because the servers are shut down. And what that has to deal with is basically Activision did some shitty business, and the Hasbro decided, no, we're going to pull the license away from Activision. And unfortunately, from what I played of them, I liked Fall of Cybertron better than War of Cybertron. But honestly, that being said, it just kind of feels bad that there was never a third installment of the game. There was a planned third installment, and it never happened, mostly because Activision became more worried about shitty business practices and, basically pouring tons of time and money into games like Call of Duty, which is basically their bread and butter. And they might as well not do anything else anymore because they don't care about anything else. But I'll leave my opinions at that, folks. I think that's really enough of this review for Fall of Cybertron. It's unfortunate that there is no way of getting digital copies anymore. Like I said, they pulled the licensing away. Maybe if you search around on the internet, you might be able to find a free digital copy out there. But I'm definitely not urging people to go out there and pirate this game, although not like anybody would be making any money off of it now anyway. But anyway, folks, that's my review of Transformers Fall of Cybertron. It's a good game. It's definitely worth your time if you're a Transformers fan, or even just looking for a good third-person shooter game, action-adventure type game. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in, watching this review of this old game. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and have yourself a wonderful day.